What's up everybody, my name is David, welcome back to the channel, and in this video I want to break down Canggu, Bali versus Thao Dien in Saigon. Both of these places are like expat enclaves, or whatever you want to call them, an expat bubble. So how do they stack up to one another? So let's get started. Okay, so the primary difference between the two places is that obviously Canggu is a part of Bali and it's an island, so you get island vibes. So you have cafes, bars, clubs, surfing, beach clubs, lots of great gyms and fitness places to go to. It's kind of like the yoga, hipster, veganism, that kind of vibe and lifestyle. And you're driving around on a little motorbike everywhere you go. And obviously, because it's an island, there's no like real like skyscrapers or like big malls or anything like that. I mean, yes, there's malls in Denpasar, whatever you want to pronounce it as, but like if you're in Canggu, again, it's more like an island vibe, that type of setup. Whereas with Thao Dien here in Saigon, it's the expat enclave. But what I like about Thao Dien is that it's just a piece of Saigon. It's part of District 2, so you have access to the rest of the city. And so that's why I quite like Thao Dien, because if you want to be based somewhere like peaceful and quiet with like nice little streets and trees and cafes and bars and clubs and cocktail bars and like cafes to work at and things like that, then you're going to quite like Thao Dien, because that's what the vibe and lifestyle is like. It has this kind of similar activities that you can get in Canggu, but it's also nice that you're in District 2, you're in Thao Dien, but you have access to the rest of the city. So unlike Bali, where you're in Canggu, you're kind of stuck in Canggu a little bit, because every area in Bali is kind of far away from each other. Like people think like, oh, I'll be in Canggu or Ubud or Uluwatu and I'll visit each of these places in a day. Like these places are kind of far away from each other. Whereas if you're in like Thao Dien, you still have easy access to District 1, District 3, District 7. It's not unreasonable to visit those places. If you want to go out at night to like District 1 and whatnot, you totally can do so. And with regards to the traffic, well, Thao Dien is, Vietnam in general is kind of known for its traffic, but it's not that bad actually. It's a little bit bad during rush hour when people are going home from work, but it's not that bad. It's not like Bali. Like Canggu and traffic in Bali is really bad. It's like bumper to bumper. You get stuck on the road that's not moving at all. And Bali's made up of all these like tiny little roads as well. So traffic can be quite annoying in Bali. But I think that's not that bad over time, as you kind of learn like what roads to go on and what roads to avoid at what time, that type of thing. So anyways, that's the overall like lifestyle and vibe differences between the two places. Okay, so the cost of living between the two places, don't mind the photo shoot behind me. I tried to find a place to myself, and of course someone else shows up 5 minutes after I get here. Anyways, the cost of living between two places is pretty similar. So food is more expensive now in Bali. It's quite surprising, because like back in like 2015, Bali was kind of cheap, and that's why I had that That's why I had that reputation being like an affordable spot to be based out of. Not so anymore. You can find a nice place for $500-600 in Bali, but food has gotten a little bit more pricey. You can find local places and whatnot, so the cost of living is not too bad. Renting a bike is fairly cheap and whatnot. And what's great about Thao Dien and Saigon in general, well, Thao Dien's a little bit more pricey for renting an apartment and whatnot, but everything else is kind of cheap. So the cost of living in Vietnam is still quite affordable, just renting a place in Thao Dien, because there's such a high demand. And the main difference between the two places with like finding an apartment to live in, well, Bali's better because Bali has way more development. So with regards to like a villa and like different buildings to live in, there's a lot more development and choice. That's a big issue here in Saigon, where it is a bit difficult to find a quality place to live. So when you're on like Facebook groups and you're trying to find a place and you find a spot in like Thao Dien that you really like, you got to jump on it right away, because it's going to be taken up when whatnot. And overall, that's kind of like what's a little bit harder to find here in like Saigon, is finding a place to live. But Thao Dien, in terms of like prices, you have a lot of flexibility, so you can have like local food, like something cheap like that, where you can go to like an international place and whatnot. And Bali's the same way, where you can have like local Indonesian food, like nasi goreng or whatever. What's the satay? There we go. I'm like, what's that called? Satay. You have like things like that. That's still quite affordable and whatnot. But overall, the cost of living between the two places is pretty similar, but Bali has gotten significantly more expensive than it used to be. So it doesn't really warrant the reputation that it has as like a cheap spot. It's not unreasonably expensive, but it's not like a budget place anymore. Kind of like how Bangkok, people think like Thailand's still cheap, and Thailand is cheap if you're outside of Bangkok and outside of Phuket. If you're in like Ratchaburi or Buriram, you're in like a random province. Yeah, Bangkok or Thailand's really cheap, but not in Bangkok and not in Phuket. And Bali's kind of like that, where Canggu specifically, it's getting a little pricey, but if you get outside of Canggu, then prices come down a lot. And Thao Dien, again, it's the expat bubble, a little bit more expensive there, and the rest of Saigon is fairly affordable. Okay, so food between both countries. I know I already touched on this, but I just want to mention that both places are international, which is quite nice. Meaning, like, you can find your Korean barbecue place, Japanese food, burger places, steak, local food, whatever. And you have flexibility with both price points, where if you want something more local and affordable, you can find it. If you want something that's a little bit more expensive, well, you can find it in both places. So I just want to bring that up. Overall, I much prefer Vietnamese food to Balinese and Indonesian food. But both places have their international places and a wide plethora of foods, so you can always find something that you're looking for. Now, the advantage I would say that Bali has probably is that they a little bit more focus on like vegan and like vegetarian, that type of thing. You can absolutely find that in Bali. That's why I always describe it as kind of like a feminine island. It's very comfortable for like your kind of typical like very liberal woman. Like, that's her island. Whereas like vegan vegetarianism is a little bit more difficult to find here in Saigon. What's great about both Thao Dien and Canggu is that credit cards are widely accepted. So that's not a thing outside of like Canggu, because like if you drive from like Canggu to like Uluwatu, you're like driving through like local little towns and whatnot. You're stopping at like the little supermarket. They don't accept credit card. That's only in like Canggu. And Thao Dien is the same way, where you can go to a cafe and pay for your $2 coffee with a credit card. That's not normal for the rest of Saigon. So I just want to bring up that. All right, let me get away from that construction. So activities with both places is quite good. They're kind of similar, where you can find your yoga places, Muay Thai, gyms, and whatnot. And also this weird thing called pickleball or paddle. I don't know what people call it, pickleball and paddle. I don't get it, but that was the weirdest thing about coming back to Thao Dien, because I was here from 2019 to 2022. And I came back here in 2025, and then it's like pickleball. Like pickleball. Like, what is this pickleball everywhere? So I found that quite strange. But both places have activities, so you can find whatever you're looking for. Now, the thing I want to mention is that gyms are outrageously expensive in Bali. Bali has flexibility like food. You have your more affordable places, but in general, like your fitness clubs and gyms and things like that in Bali are crazy expensive. It's like California fitness here in Thao Dien, which is like crazy expensive. Whereas you have more flexibility here in Thao Dien and Saigon in general to find a gym, because my gym is in District 1 that I go to. So it only takes me like maybe 10 minutes to drive to my gym from like where I live. So it's not too far. My typical little routine is to get my local Cafe Denda here, and then I head over to the gym. And so you can do the similar thing within Canggu, but just be aware that gyms are quite expensive. Whereas here you have more options. You don't have to spend a ton of money if you want. So overall, my gym that I'm paying for cost me 10,000 Vietnamese dong. So it's not too expensive per year. So I pay that per year and whatnot. And there you go. So I do Muay Thai here. I go to the gym, and that's what I'm all about. And I do paddle a little bit. I played it, and it's okay. It's tennis. So I don't get why it's everywhere. But like, if you like to do pickleball, paddle, whatever, there's so many places here in Thao Dien and in Saigon in general. It's kind of strange. I don't know where this came out of, but anyways, both places have activities. They have the similar activities. Bali obviously has the advantage because you have surfing, and surfing is fantastic in Bali, particularly if you don't know how to surf, because they have their more advanced places in like Uluwatu, which has like bigger waves, but they also have like areas that you can go to kind of learn how to surf as well. All right, so I'm just getting some tom tam now for lunch. It's literally $3, $80,000 for all this food. This is what I'm talking about, why I like Saigon so much, because you can have a cheap meal like this, go somewhere more expensive if you want, you have that flexibility. Now, I just want to briefly cover like co-working spaces between both countries, and I have to say that Bali's way better. Like, if you want to have a place where you have like a proper co-working space with activities and network and meet people, you're going to really enjoy Bali, because co-working spaces just are not a thing here in Thao Dien and Saigon in general, and it's just the one weakness of this place in my opinion. Now, in terms of cafe culture, both are similar. They both have their cafes to go work at, so both are great. Like all around like Canggu, there's a bunch of different places you can take your laptop, get a cup of coffee and food, whatever work, And same with here in Thao Dien and Saigon, in general with District 1, District 3, whatever you want to do. Because the way cafes work here in Saigon, which I really like, is that you have your morning places, like your cafe denda places where you can get like 18,000 dong coffee, like literally 50-cent coffee. That's what Vietnamese do in the morning, they get their coffee, then have a cigarette, whatever. And then you have your proper like work cafes like Starbucks or like a local brand where people go and take their laptops to work. Then you have your nighttime cafes, which are open at like 8, 9, 10, 11. And that's something I love about this place because like if it's like 10 o'clock and I'm with a girl, like sometimes we just want to go chill at a cafe and like have some tea or something like that. I don't want to, like Bangkok, it's all bars at night. There's nothing open other than like a bar or a club. So that's one really nice thing about Saigon. But anyways, with co-working spaces and cafes, both have great cafes to work at with great food. Bali for the advantage with regards to co-working spaces to network, meet people, and do activities and whatnot. Okay, and let's finish this off with just briefly talking about dating between both Canggu, Bali, and Saigon and Thao Dien and whatnot. So the main differences are, one, Bali's an island, so the dating market's a little bit smaller because, duh, you're on an island. But with the advantage that Bali has, though, it's more of an international crowd. So if you're looking to meet like a French girl, Russian girl, German, something like that, then you're going to much prefer Bali over... Let's not get run over here. You're going to much prefer Bali over Saigon. But where Saigon has the advantage is obviously it's a city. So if you're in Thao Dien, you have access to all of Saigon, all the girls and all the people who live here. And so the dating market here is much, much bigger. So if you're into Asian girls, then you're really like Saigon. Like you saw that girl behind me doing the photo shoot. Like Vietnamese women are quite pretty. So that's what's great about living here because you have access to like a wide range of women. It's a city, the dating market's quite big. But if you're not into Asian girls, which I can understand, not everyone is, then you're not gonna maybe like Saigon and Thao Dien and whatnot, and then Bali's more your speed. So that's really the difference between the two. One's an island, dating market's smaller but more international. The other one's a city, dating market is much bigger, and you have the opportunity to meet more Asian women in Thao Dien and Saigon in general. Alright everyone, that's it for this random video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, subscribe, hit that like button, and make sure to check out my expat escape plan where I cover everything that you need to know to go abroad in both Thailand and Vietnam because that's where I have most of my experience from. So just in short, Bali, it's an island, good food, good lifestyle, vegan, hipster, yoga, driving around a little motorbike, beach vibes, surfing. Saigon, Thao Dien, expat enclave, access to a broader city, good dating market, Vietnamese food is great, and if you prefer living in more of a city environment like I do, then I much prefer Saigon. I love visiting Bali, I just don't see myself like really wanting to live there long term. Again, it's just up to you and what you want. Anyways, I'll stop rambling and I'll leave it here. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.